Step 1. Clickbait. Skip ahead to this timestamp if you really want to miss out on everything I've got to say today, but otherwise, stick around, we've got some juicy stuff for you. So today we'll be discussing how does one go viral, but more interestingly and probably more importantly, what is our obsession with going viral in the first place, and what are its implications? So in order to gain likes or subs or whatever nowadays, you need to go viral. It is virtually impossible to start from having absolutely nothing and slowly gaining like 1 subscriber a day until you slowly gain 1,000 and then 10,000, and it doesn't work like that, right? Instead, you pretty much have to go viral in stages. Maybe one of your videos goes viral and you gain 1,000 subs from that, and then it plateaus for a little bit, until you make another viral video and then you gain another 1,000, etc., etc. That's pretty much the only way to grow, especially on a platform like YouTube. I don't use TikTok personally, but it seems like it has a lot higher chance of going viral. Same with Instagram Reels, I've been seeing more and more Reels from small creators, whereas on YouTube, you're really only going to see content from people who put out content very similar to the stuff you already watch, who already have a decent following. I feel like our obsession with going viral is also somewhat mindless in a sense. You know how in a society, there are values that are passed down to us from other generations, like traditions that we don't really know why we have them, but we just do them because that's part of living in a culture. And I feel like there's been so much commotion about going viral. You need to go viral. Like in the backs of our minds, we know like this is the only way to grow, but it's pretty easy to forget that. And we just kind of go along with it as like virality is something I should achieve, even if we don't really comprehend why. Side note, let's talk about how the notion of virality and fame affects young people in particular. I guess I find it more impressive when I see a 15-year-old with 1 million subs than when I see a 25-year-old with 1 million subs. And if you've seen that article that's like the most sought after career by young kids is to be a YouTuber, honestly, I don't know if that's necessarily because being a YouTuber looks more fun, or if that's just because that's what kids have the most exposure to. I don't know if you've seen that TikTok that kind of talks about how the entertainment industry, especially YouTube, is kind of like this pipeline that takes really young, impressionable kids and tells them that they need to achieve certain goals, and along the way kind of manipulates them. And obviously getting famous as a young person usually isn't pretty good for you. JB, Macaulay Culkin, Lindsay Lohan. But honestly, it's not entirely their fault, right? If you think about it, if I got famous as a 15-year-old, I would have no idea what to do with myself in my life. And I don't think most people do either. So with that said, virality isn't that great, especially if you're young and impressionable. Approach the whole social media thing with caution. Now, here's how to actually go viral. So last year, around April or May 2020, about the time I was starting to get into self-help books in order to improve my own self over quarantine, I read the book Contagious. So this book is mainly meant to sell products, not like YouTube videos or anything, but I feel like the general psychology behind the tips that he gives still apply. Also, disclaimer, this little acronym that I'm about to provide is literally straight from the book, so don't sue me. It's STEPS, or STEPPS, but I think the last S wasn't relevant, so I just cut it from our discussion today. The first S stands for social currency. Basically, we share things that make us look good. So for example, super interesting story times that somebody might share with a friend, or if you have something really niche about your content, like a really specific sense of humor, then somebody might be more likely to recommend your channel to a friend since it seems like they engage in this like really high quality, specific side of YouTube. The T stands for triggers. In other words, if there are a lot of things in everyday life that might specifically remind a person of your video, then they might be more likely to tell a friend about it. For example, I don't know, if you like paint anime characters on your guitar and somebody watches that specific anime, or if they're like starting to play guitar, then they might recommend but they'll just mention your video to a friend who also plays guitar or also watches that anime, and then you'll kind of get this like, it kind of naturally spreads the information about your video. The E stands for emotion, but it's pretty self-explanatory. The first P stands for public. If the product is easily observable, it kind of markets itself, so this is why a lot of YouTubers sell merch, because when you can see something, it kind of advertises for itself. And by the way, your merch doesn't have to be anything huge, like I know hoodie production is really expensive, you don't have to start out with that. You could do something smaller like stickers, and those would still get to have your channel name on them and kind of spread the word about your YouTube channel. The next P stands for practical value, or the tagline of the book is, News you can use. So basically, people like to have information that is useful to them. Of course, every once in a while we watch YouTube just for pure entertainment, but if you naturally have a really terrible dry sense of humor, like me, you might be able to profit off of this practical value idea that if you give useful information to people, then they're going to be more likely to share or save your video. People really like lists. For example, like 5 cute summer outfits, or like 7 ways to decorate your room. And those really catch people's eyes, and you give them like 5 or 7 or like 13 concrete ways that they can improve their life, I guess. Now I'm gonna get into a little bit more nitty-gritty, the very specific to YouTube. I don't believe in virality or numbers as my primary motivation for making videos. Like, I really just do this for fun. So I don't personally agree with the underlying motives of everything I'm about to say, but it is pretty true, and these tips I'm about to share do work. Number 1. Balance clickbait with content that people will actually watch through. I've clicked on countless videos simply for the clickbait, fully aware that it is clickbait. I'll like scroll down into the comments to find the one person who says, the timestamp you're looking for is da da da, and then I'll click on that timestamp and just watch 30 seconds and then click off the video. That's not good for the algorithm. You're definitely supposed to make videos that drive your watch time up to get people to watch for longer through the video. So even though you might use a little bit of clickbait here and there to get people to initially click, your content should be striving to be good enough where people actually want to watch most of it through. 2. You want your audience to live vicariously through you. Basically, show off the life that you think other people want. And if you live in New York City or if you attend Harvard, all those things are what people want. So capitalize off of that. And in a similar vein, if you're truly interested in making YouTube for like outside attention, as in like if you're not just making videos for you and your friends to reminisce on, cut the parts of your videos that aren't as relevant or unique or special. Essentially, cut the dumb conversations or inside jokes with friends unless you and your friend group are really like the star of the show. Because nobody really cares. You want your audience to wish they had what you have. 3. You want to have videos and titles that people actually search for. If you don't have subs, a video that's titled something like Summer Lookbook 2021 is probably gonna get a lot more traction and views than something titled like Fits for Hot Girl Summer. Ooh, very spicy. 4. Post consistently. Like once a week at the very least. 2 or 3 times a week if your brain can really handle it. Basically, the more stuff you put out, the higher a chance you have at eventually going viral. Kind of makes sense. And also people will feel better about subscribing because it's like more worth it to them as a consumer. They're not paying for your content. And so they want to get kind of their money's worth by subscribing to you. They'd be receiving the steady stream of content reliably once or twice a week rather than just randomly dotted throughout the year. And obviously you don't want to be sacrificing quality for quantity, but just keep in mind, you should be posting pretty consistently. 5. Not only do you want to be consistent in how often you post, you also want to be consistent in the type of content you post. Because people might watch a whole variety of different content. I know I personally bounce around from watching covers of popular songs to fashion videos to art TikTok compilations. I watch a whole variety of different stuff, and I'm sure most people do too. But if somebody subscribes to you, it's because they want a very specific thing from you. Maybe that's fashion, maybe that's art, song covers, animation, video essays, vlogs, college content. Whatever it is, people generally want you to stay in your lane as a creator, at least until you've figured all your other stuff out, and until you've gained enough subscribers to where they won't just leave if you start doing new stuff. That's a little bit, adventuring out of your lane. Now, let's get into some analysis. All of the tips I just shared make sense to me. Like, it makes sense why you would want people to live vicariously through you, makes sense why you would want to post consistently. And formulaic isn't necessarily a bad thing in and of itself. It does draw a little bit of fun out of the process, but it's not like inherently terrible. In my mind though, it is a little bit counterintuitive to the idea of being a creator because it's severely limiting you as to what you can create. But like I said, inherently it's not that bad. However, there are some more negative effects in trying to use those tips in chasing virality. It's relatively fun and mostly harmless if you put a little bit of clickbait once in a while, but something like getting your audience to live vicariously through you seriously steers you towards romanticizing your own life. It's literally just like the TikTok trend, we are becoming self-aware. And this romanticization isn't healthy for either you or your audience. Their life doesn't compare to what you're sharing most of the time. And honestly, yours probably doesn't either. Posting consistently also makes sense as to why you would need to do it in order to eventually go viral, but it can lead to burnout. And for me personally, posting content that is a specific genre, I suppose, every single time kind of limits me from what I want to create. I know this isn't for everybody, like most people are completely happy doing just fashion or just music covers, and that's fine, but I want to branch out. I like painting, but I couldn't make solely painting content. And I enjoy fashion, but I couldn't make just fashion content either. Being as consistent as you're supposed to kind of limits me both creatively and therefore mentally. We do have this weird obsession with going viral. And like I mentioned, sometimes it really can feel like we're just chasing this goal of virality without really knowing why we're doing it or why we care so much. And clearly virality is a pretty good way to boost and grow your platform, but I feel like in the long run, we should be a little bit more focused on fostering connections and making videos that have more of an impact. And I know that sounds pretty cheesy, but honestly, I'd rather make videos that encompass more of who I am as a person, more of my personality, rather than just honing in on one specific hobby that I do. I feel like these goals matter a little bit more than virality itself for the sake of virality. And honestly, if you make videos that are truly informative or interesting or funny or relatable or relaxing or just cinematic masterpieces, the views will inevitably roll in. And even if they don't, I feel like I personally would rather put out stuff that doesn't get many views, but that I truly enjoy making, that I enjoy the message of whatever I'm putting out, rather than mindlessly chasing this goal where I don't even know why I'm really seeking it in the first place. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.